Welcome everyone to the Tgndcast. This is the Geek Next Door's official podcast.
Pretty sure it's the only podcast, dude.
It is, but it is also the most awesome podcast that we've ever wanted to do.
Because it's us!
Because it's us. So, introductions. My name is Caynes. I am the editor and owner of Tgndcast.com, a video game review website where we cover mostly video games, some anime stuff. We are looking at doing other stuff such as movies and opinions and things like that. But mainly we deal in video game reviews and video game news. Generally speaking, with the site itself, which is again tgeeknd.com, it's more of a platform. That's essentially why we created it in the first place. It's not just because I felt that I needed to get my opinion out there from when I used to do my old blog, which was called something like the Single Random Guy, because I was single and random, and now I'm just random. But I decided to create a site so that people like myself could have that chance to get their name back out there, because there is a lot of writers out there who struggle and find it hard to get their writing out there, or their writing up on a website and stuff like that. Basically, I wouldn't say that we're globally known, but we're certainly known here in Australia as one of the independent small websites that gets a decent amount of traffic, and I know that a lot of you listen to us, so read our stuff, so I'm very thankful for that, and we're thankful to be able to give people that chance to put up their writing and things like that so that we can get their name out there for them. To my left,
I'm Jesse Wilson. So basically, I met Al at a Pokemon event that I was helped running, and I actually help run a Pokemon group based in Melbourne, Victoria, called Poke Melbourne. And Al was at one of our events. A few of the event organisers had known him, but I actually hadn't met him before.
I was there being a Poke junkie.
Pretty much. I actually hadn't known anything about Al. I didn't know he was a game reviewer or anything. He was just another random Pokemon dude as far as I was concerned. And yeah, we actually started talking, and we found out that we have very similar interests. I actually come from a graphic design background, and I also assist in people's businesses in a sense of I do a lot of marketing and promotion, just freelance stuff, nothing too crazy. I do actually work for a graphic design company as well. But Al approached me basically saying, hey, I need some help basically rebranching my site. I would like to become a little bit bigger.
Here's some candy, little boy, get in the
van. Not quite like that. Orcs. But basically, yeah. So, yeah, I've been helping him out for the past couple months now, where I'm looking to, redo his site and just work on a lot of promotions. And he also asked me to be a part of this podcast, and yeah, I was all for it. I'm really looking forward to doing the series with him.
And just on that, Jesse works for, I guess you could say works for, assists with, helps to run Poke Melbourne. You should really check them out on Facebook. They actually successfully recently run the biggest, I believe, in Australian history VGC tournament.
It was the second biggest.
Or VG. Second biggest, was it?
Yep, we actually got 3 off of PAX, which is still quite huge.
Ooh,
we
just
had
beaten by PAX.
Yeah, I know, but it was held at EB Games Swanston Street, and we had the luxury of working quite closely with EB Games, and the fact that we were able to fill out their store like that was absolutely incredible. Like, I remember the first time we did a Pokemon tournament with them, it was pretty much like, okay, we got 60. Okay, now we've got 128. Now we've got, it's just 178. It was absolutely crazy. It was an absolute joy to help run, and it was a bit of mad times in there as well. But I thought it was a great success. We got great feedback. We had Nintendo representatives there. We had Al there. We had guys from Dragonball Z. It was just an all-round great day.
And also joining us at the moment, assisting in our audio, is our Code Monkey. Introduce yourself, please, Mr. Code Monkey.
Do I have to?
Yes.
Hi, I'm a Code Monkey.
So basically, Liam is a good friend of mine. We've been good mates since, year 8 in high school. And we actually do quite some freelance website work together, and also we both work at Poke Melbourne. I do a lot of the promotion and graphic design and emceeing. Liam's our tech guy. He does a lot of the registration work. He's also working on coding the site. We got him on board basically just to help Al with his website and just coding it up. And also
bananas
just
at it till it works.
I have a feeling if I call him Code Monkey again, he's going to murder me.
But basically, yeah. So he helps out with all the tech stuff, and he's also got an audio background, which is why he's assisting us today with our podcasts. I do believe we've got some, stuff on the agenda today.
We do. Coming up, the first thing that we're going to talk about is some game stuff in regards to the Nintendo saga and its record corporate loss.
Flawless victory. Excellent.
Alright, so basically what's happened is Nintendo have recorded a third-year record loss. Now, this year has been caused by the Wii U system. Which
God.
many of us out there in the media know that the Wii U was an upgrade from the Wii system. However, due to marketing, the Wii U just kind of seemed like a side grade, or it just basically looked like the gamepad itself was just an addition to the Wii. So why would I buy a Wii U just to get this gamepad thing? They didn't really explain it well enough.
Not just that, like there's nothing on it at this stage. Nothing that would really entice me to say I need to have this.
Well, that's right. It had a really weak launch lineup. There wasn't anything like a Mario Kart or anything to really pull in those hardcore, like, I really want to go and buy the system type fans that they've had in the past. Now, going from the Wii, which was one of the best-selling consoles for a long time, surprisingly enough, for something that, quote-unquote, people think are a casual gaming system, which, guys, everything is a casual gaming system, I'm just saying. But basically going from something that was selling so damn well into something that just sold so poorly. And, I mean, look, even when I saw those original ads, they were terrible. I didn't know what they were trying to market. I was like, okay, so you're trying to market me a new system that has a gamepad. What's actually new about the system? Why am I buying a new system just for a gamepad?
It makes it especially hard, I find, because I was having this conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and, like, the jump from the new generation consoles as opposed to the ones that were previously had, so like the Wii to the Wii U, the PS3 to the PS4, and the Xbox 360 to the Xbox One. In my opinion, there hasn't been that much of a jump. Like, there hasn't been that much of a jump from, let's say, a PS2 to a PS3. And I understand that, but, like, if you're going to do that, and you understand that the jump isn't as significant, you should be trying your absolute best to try and entice your audience, try and get those games out, win people over with it. And I just don't feel like Nintendo have done that.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, and I don't think that any of the companies at the moment, be it Sony, Microsoft, or Nintendo, really brought across how much of a jump these systems are.
Yeah.
And they don't seem to be that massive a jump at this point with the launch lineups that they've had. Each one of them have had a relatively weak launch lineup. I'm actually surprised that so many units of the Xbox and the PS4 have sold, really considering that there wasn't anything released as part of their launch lineup that made people really want to go out and buy it. I mean, somebody was saying to me the other day that Call of Duty Ghosts was the premier launch game for Xbox One to entice people to buy it, but a lot of the people I know just went, well, I'm just going to play it on 360.
Exactly. And I think that is a lot of the case through a lot of the games. We're still in that phase where a majority of games that are getting released are sort of cross-platform, like to the PS3, to the PS4, the Xbox 360, and the Xbox One. And like the only game that really enticed me, I would say, that looked quite good was I think it's called Reese on the Xbox One.
Rice,
that's the one. Sorry, Rice. And I had a look at that, and I was like, wow, that looks pretty good. Like,
have you played it?
Haven't played it.
All right.
The
major
reviews on it.
complaint about this particular game, and you can find a review on our website about this as well. And I'm pretty sure that Adrian touched on this one. The game looks stunning. The game looks it looks like quite a good game. Once you start playing it, however, it's all quick time events, and it just feels kind of shallow. It looks pretty, but it doesn't have a lot behind the gears. And that's one of the problems with launch lineups and things like that. You know that a launch lineup's not going to be massive. There's going to be at least one game, though, that really pulls you in and goes, I want to play this. Now, with the Wii U, it didn't even have that.
Yeah.
I mean, everything that was launched for it, like Zombie U, which is the zombie game on there, is a really good game. It's very hard, but the thing is, it wasn't really, again, marketed that well. People didn't know what to expect, especially from the Wii U system. So that's where the problem came in.
Yeah. I just find, I feel like Xbox One really capitalized on the marketing campaign. Like, I saw a lot of advertising go out for the Xbox One. I feel like they needed to, though, given their kind of embarrassment at E3. But that was probably the one company. I was really surprised that, PS4 weren't pumping out more advertising. I was seeing Xbox everywhere.
PS4 really dropped the ball on that one because, I mean, when it came down to it, here's Xbox going DRM, and everyone going, no. And then PlayStation were going, well, that's cool, we won't do DRM, look at us. And then at E3 they were like, hey, guess what we do that Xbox One doesn't do? We don't do DRM. Ta-da! That's great. What else are you going to show us? Our games convey emotion. Okay, what else are you going to show us? That's it, yay, thanks for coming!
Yeah.
They really dropped the ball on that one, but again, this is really supposed to be about Nintendo and...
Rant.
There is...
Ranting on.
Yes, ranting on. There is a lot of talk at the moment from different websites about how to fix Nintendo, which I don't think is necessarily the case. We don't need to fix Nintendo. Nintendo don't need to fix themselves. They certainly need to remarket the Wii U. They certainly need to look at some new games or even some existing IP. I really think that a Pokemon-themed Wii U system with a gamepad that's designed around, Pokeballs and Pokemon. Look at the N64, that sold pretty well, especially the Pokemon one, because it came out with a Pokemon game.
Exactly.
I think it was Pokemon Coliseum.
Yep.
But it also had things like Pokemon Snap. So generally speaking, I think we need to see a Wii U system that's themed with Pokemon, that's bundled with a Pokemon.
I was actually going to say, basically, 11.6 million copies of the game have been sold since, I think it was last week that the statistics came through.
I think so, yeah. That's Pokemon X and Y.
That's huge. For Pokemon X and Y, for a Pokemon game, 1 in every 100 person in Japan has it.
Yeah,
which
1 in every 100 people is insane.
Yeah, that's just incredible. And I just find, okay, you've got a great success here, and I feel like you are only tapping into it, maybe 30%.
Yeah, exactly. Look at how many people were at EB Swanston Street for the pre-release, right? There was close to 400 people.
Oh, more than that. There was probably easily over 1,000 people in the city, in various,
in
EB
various
Games stores.
Locations, yeah, for sure.
We were both there at EB Games Swanston Street, and it was overcrowded there was no tomorrow.
It was crazy.
But it was crazy because it wasn't just, your hardcore Pokemon fans. It was these old school Pokemon fans that go, hey, this actually looks good. This actually looks like I want to go back into the game.
Exactly. And imagine putting something like that, like the X and Y game, on a Wii U, which will actually tie into something we'll talk about a little bit later as well.
Yeah.
Where there is the Pokebank that's out in Japan and not yet out here. But basically what we're doing is the idea of using the Pokebank transfer, so that you can transfer from your 3DS or your 3DS XL or your 2DS onto a cloud server into the Pokemon Bank. Imagine if you could then transfer those Pokemon into your Wii U and keep playing X and Y on your Wii U. So basically you're out and about on the town, on a train, on a plane, in a car. You're traveling around, you're walking around, you're on your break from work, or you're at a friend's place, whip out your 3DS, you're playing it out there, you get home, transfer your Pokemon through the Pokebank, transfer it down into your Wii U system, and keep playing X and Y, or an equivalent game.
It will also solve the issue that we have with capture. I know a lot of people like to do, gameplays and whatnot, and wouldn't it be awesome? I know that they've improved a lot in, saving battles and uploading battles, but it would still be fantastic if we could view... I know for us down at Poke Melbourne, we've been trying to get the capture device, where it will allow a 3DS to be viewed on a big screen. So basically, we can show like a final fight there, like a final battle.
Exactly.
And it would be great. The crowd really wants to see that. And in previous times, we've had to, use a modified 3DS with a laptop, and that's not ideal. But I just feel like if we go through that idea, like you said, like if there was some kind of like Colosseum or Revolution equivalent, then that would solve that issue. Because then what you could do is you can connect it through a Wii U. You can use the tablet to play. Your Pokemon are there, and it would just make things so much easier. And I just feel, as I said, I just feel like they're not using its full potential,
Absolutely.
which is kind of frustrating.
The other thing that you're looking at there is the fact that you'll be able to play online against other people around the world, like you do on a 3DS now, or even in championship games, halfway across the world. Oh, there's a championship going on in America, and it's open to anyone to get into, because we don't have VGC here yet. It is something that we're trying to get. That obviously, is something it's very hard to get, and we've been working towards it. And you guys have been, busting your butts off, basically trying to get it.
The closest that we got to it was we had an opportunity to have a nationals at PAX, which is where we were able to compete for those tickets to go to, I believe it was Vancouver last year.
It was Vancouver, yeah.
And we were very lucky that a few Aussie guys were able to represent Australia, and we had a TCG guy actually win it out in the trading card game. But I just feel like the Pokemon community in Australia has grown so much
exponentially.
Like we had 178 people at Swanston Street.
That's right. And we're talking about just one state. We're talking about just Melbourne.
That's exactly it.
So if you look at all the other states and you say, all right, well, maybe we'll get half that in every other state, well, that's still a lot of people, and that's still a good reason to run these kinds of tournaments.
Absolutely. And I feel like, Nintendo should start really looking at that and, saying, hey, there is a community here. There are some dead set players here. And, if Australia took out a TCG title and we had a bunch of players go over there to compete, that's got to count for something.
Exactly. And that actually leads us into the next topic that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, Poker Bank. A lot of people down in Australia, and I know other areas of the world, barring Japan, of course, just a little bit disappointed with it. Look, here's my 2 cents on the matter. They were so built on having X and Y as a worldwide release. Now, okay, you had a few copies released, and those guys started leaking it on the internet. That's all fair enough. But, a majority of the world got it at the same time, or pretty close to the same time. Now we have Poker Bank. So basically, they had some issues with it, and it was up in Japan for about a day, and they decided to take it down. Or it might have been a bit more than a day, so...
It was around about a day.
Around a day, anyway. They decided to take it down. Now, they've decided to bring it back, but it seems like it's only in Japan. And it's been in Japan for about a good week or so, maybe a bit more. What frustrates me is, okay, you're using this in Japan. Fair enough if you're testing with it. Testing shouldn't take that long. The rest of the world, all the Pokemon fans, I know people from my group, it's the number one question as well at this time, apart from, do you have a 6IV Ditto? That's like international.
Everyone wants
that's number one. Number 2 at the moment is Poker Bank. And the reason why Poker Bank's number 2 is people are just getting sick and tired of it.
Yep, absolutely.
People are just like, I've had enough. Like, you've said this was coming out this time. Okay, you have some issues. It's getting close to now a month they've delayed it. And, yeah, from a fan perspective...
The other disappointing part of that is the fact that what a Poker Bank was there for was to try and stop hacked Pokemon. So the thing that they told us was that you couldn't transfer items, that's fair enough, but you also wouldn't be able to transfer any illegally obtained Pokemon through Poker Bank into the 3DS.
Yeah.
This obviously didn't happen. I've got a shiny Rayquaza that I got traded recently in a Wonder Trade, which proves that it didn't work properly. Now, they haven't come out on record, I don't think, about talking about hacked Pokemon going through.
Which I think is a little bit immature on their behalf.
It's a bit strange. I would have thought that they would have gone for full disclosure. Hey, look, this is what's happened. Not only did we not expect the amount of traffic that we got, which shut down our servers, but also we realised that people's hacked Pokemon were still going through, even though they shouldn't be able to be transferred.
Most definitely.
Because a V-Create shiny Rayquaza with a Dusk Ball is obviously fake.
Yeah.
You know, and then that's one of the things. There's been a lot of Pokemon actually that have been transferred using Wonder Trade that have come over from Bank, because there's no other way to get it other than Bank.
Exactly, and also that's one thing that's kind of been annoying me a little bit, is those people in Japan that have access to Pokemon Bank. They basically have access to all those event Pokemon that they would have got, you know, all those Pokemon that are, you know, exclusive to other games and not exclusive to X and Y, and they're basically just exploiting it. They're basically, you know, cloning Pokemon, asking for unreasonable things, and, you know, it's, to me, it's a real headache. You know, I just would have thought, if you're going to release something, test it on your own terms. Don't release it in the whole country. Release it all one together.
I think the biggest thing is that they had enough time to test it before it came out in the first place. For it to be found out that hacked Pokemon were going through, or whatever their issue was for taking it down, their servers going down, they had time to test that. My question would be, why would you release something like that without having strenuous tests, knowing it's supposed to perform a specific role, that role obviously didn't work? And I'm not going to say that this for any other reason other than the fact that I can clearly see myself personally. I can see that it didn't work. That's how I got that Rayquaza, because somebody had hacked a previous gen game, transferred it onto their game illegally, transferred it through Pokebank. There's no other way to get that Rayquaza in X and Y. So there's no other way to get that Rayquaza other than transferring it through Pokebank, which again was their big draw card and saying to people, hey, here's this service, we're offering this service, you'll get it free for X amount of months, and then you pay $5 per year, and it will stop hacked Pokemon from going through, which, ta-da, didn't.
That's sort of it. I think what they've done is they've put a little bit of a band-aid on it, and they've said, well, okay, we've introduced the Blue Pentagon. So basically, all Pokemon that are found in X and Y, or the Kalos region, or that have been born in the Kalos region, or X and Y, basically come with this little blue pentagon when you view the Pokemon stats.
Oh, they're supposed to.
Well, they're supposed to.
Doesn't always work that way.
Doesn't always. There are a few exceptions. But I think that that's basically what they were saying. They were saying, like, okay, if a transfer Pokemon does come through, and it has, like, certain moves or certain things, it won't have the blue pentagon, and therefore they will not be allowed on the ladder. Now, basically, I saw an article which had a Scizor that had transfer moves on it, which you are not able to get on X and Y, and it still had the blue pentagon, which I'm sitting there going, come on, guys. Like, really? Like, that's a simple little thing. And don't get me wrong, I love the series. I'm a massive fan. I've been playing it ever since I was a kid, and I've been continuing to play all the games since. That's one thing that has frustrated me. That is a simple thing that shouldn't even have to be mentioned. Like, you should just be able to do that. And the fact that, you know, they've released it and they said it's fine, we've tested it. No, it's not fine. Hacked Pokemon are still getting through. And what's even more frustrating, again, the rest of the world is still waiting. Japan's fine. Where's our copy?
Exactly. Now, moving on from there to the next topic, I believe you wanted to discuss Zelda.
Zelda, yeah. Big time fan of Zelda. I actually, first Zelda game was Ocarina of Time. Like, you know, poor Al hasn't experienced it yet.
I haven't, no. I've
No.
played a little bit of a Zelda game, but I haven't played many Zelda games.
Look, in terms of Zelda, I love the series, but as I'm, you know, getting older, playing more games of it, I'm finding myself getting a bit frustrated with the series. Like, I recently played A Link Between Worlds, which is the new one on the 3DS, which is set, I think, roughly around 100 years after The Link to the Past, which is an absolute classic, done, you know, quite a number of years ago. It was a great game. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, but I'm sitting here thinking, hang on, this game is sort of like the exact same thing over and over and over again. And it's beginning to frustrate me, because literally you have the same storyline. You have a hero, you have a princess, you have the bad guy. The bad guy, 9 times out of 10, is Ganondorf. Or Ganon, if you refer him to. And essentially, to beat Ganon, you need to acquire this all-powerful sword, which is called the Master Sword. Once you acquire this sword, then you have to resurrect or summon these sages. And these sages basically reside in temples. Once you awaken these sages, then they have the power to basically seal the evildoer into this, time vortex, and he just stays there. And that's cool, and that's really good if you're going to do it maybe once, twice, 3 times. They've done it so many times now. Like, one of my favourite Zelda games would have to be Majora's Mask. It was so different, it was so out there, and it was just brilliantly done. Like, it had a story behind it, and it didn't need to, like, basically revolve itself around the Triforce or Ganondorf, for that matter. And I think, I would really, really love to see that.
So, essentially in most Zelda games then, they kind of like catch the bad guy but don't kill him, they just lock him away in time for him to get out every time.
So, spoiler alert, for those who haven't played particular Zelda games, I'm going to mention just a few spoilers. So, in Twilight Princess, that is not the case. In Twilight Princess, they actually put an end to it, which I thought was interesting. It was a nice touch. They also made it a little bit more different. Like, Twilight Princess is sort of like in between a good thing and a bad thing. Like, it still follows sort of classic Zelda, whereas you need to unlock certain things to go to get the Master Sword, and there are certain temples that you need to do to basically get access to the bad guy. But they did do things different. They didn't solely rely on the sages, and the bad guy wasn't locked away this time. He was actually put away.
And what were your thoughts around the weapons? So from what I hear, that you used to run dungeons and things like that for unique weapons and items, but now it's more of a rent until you die kind of system.
So yeah, that system was basically in the new 3DS game, A Link Between Worlds. I honestly wasn't a massive fan of it, because I feel like it kind of stole away from the dungeons a little bit. Yeah, that's one thing I was always kind of a fan of. Like, you have to go through a dungeon, and when you get to about the middle part of the dungeon, you would get a particular item, and that item would either would help you progress through the dungeon and essentially beat the boss of a dungeon. Now, you did get some items in, certain dungeons, but in A Link Between Worlds, I sort of felt like they were a little bit useless. Like, you ended up getting some chainmail that reduced damage. That wasn't necessarily like you needed it. Like, you could have beaten the game without it. Sure, it makes things a little bit easier, but it wasn't one of those things that you say, hey, I need this to get to this next part. And that's what I sort of was like, I see what you're trying to do. I'm not a massive fan of it, though.
Okay.
So, yeah.
What we might do, I might get back on track and move over to movies. Alright, so, movies, yes. Spider-Man movies.
Here we go.
Fantastic.
It's time for Al's rant.
Look, man, there's just something that has to be said here. How many cooks spoil a broth? How many, we're looking at six villains. 6 villains.
I'd say 6 would spoil the broth.
So, with Amazing Spider-Man 1, you had one villain, which was the Lizard. You had a hinted-at villain, Norman Osborn, towards the end of the movie, who was talking with Kurt Connors, Now we have what first, from the posters, seemed like Green Goblin in the background, and Electro was in the background a bit more as well, and then you had the Rhino in his power armor looking thing, which is like Ultimate Rhino or something like that. It looks pretty cool. I wasn't on board originally, but I started coming around. Then, when I started seeing stuff like the Vulture and things like that being advertised, I was starting to get a bit freaked out, because I see a movie like Avengers, right, and it has a big team of Avengers versing, a big army of bad guys, and that's fine. I can get my head around. But bringing out a whole bunch of incompetent enemies to battle Spider-Man just does not seem right.
It seems like overkill to me.
A little bit, and it seems like it's going to have too much going on for me to enjoy the story, especially knowing that you've got Gwen Stacy in it. Apparently you're also going to have Mary Jane in it, so you're going to have
Double trouble.
You're going to have the two loves of his life, known in the comic book world as the two greatest loves in his life. Gwen Stacy was killed by the Green Goblin, and Mary Jane, who eventually in one of the lines of the comics he was forced to give up so that he could protect her. mind wiped and all that sort of stuff. I don't know where they went with that one. I didn't finish reading the storyline. But essentially, he ends up marrying Mary Jane. But originally in the comics, his first love was, of course, Gwen Stacy, who gets killed by the Green Goblin. Now, if you put Green Goblin in this movie, and you've got Gwen Stacy in this movie, and you've got Mary Jane in this movie, and then you've got 5 other villains, well, how much interaction are we going to see? What type of story are we going to see? How long is this movie going to be to make sense? How much stuff's going to be cut out? And how much are we going to be sitting here thinking this is Spider-Man 3?
It really does. Like, it's starting to sound like a Transformer 2.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I really... it just feels like they're trying to pack in as much as they can so that they can make sense of what's to come. And
Exactly.
I feel like I really get frustrated, and especially, like, I can understand how fans such as yourself would get really, really frustrated at that as well. Like, you need to take your time, and you need to do it properly, because your toughest critics are going to be those guys who've read the comics and are going to be like, they're brutal on the internet as well. Like, they'll tear at a new one. Like, I know that you were having a bit of an argument with someone in regards to the new casting for Lex Luthor, and like just tearing at a new one. Like, we won't go too much into that, but it's basically
Batman versus Superman.
Here we go.
You all complained about Affleck. You're entitled to your opinions. That's fine. But saying that this dude here is not going to be good as Lex Luthor? Come on, guys. Seriously?
Okay.
Alright, so it's the guy from...
Before you continue, I just want to apologise to anyone who's listening. I have opened a can of worms. Yeah, be prepared. Grab your popcorn now. God damn
Definitely
it.
get your popcorn.
God damn it.
So the thing with this is that it's the guy from The Social Network, right? Surprisingly enough, he plays Zuckerberg. So he plays, in The Social Network, a guy who's supposed to be very, very smart, eventually very, very rich, and very, very evil, pretty much. Let's face it, Zuckerberg, evil, hand in hand. We've seen that from Facebook. But the whole thing here is the fact that they're saying that he can't pull it off, that he won't be good in the role, He's already done the role. It's not that hard. He's young, he's, supposed to be very smart and very rich. He's Lex Luthor. This guy fits the bill. We know he can play the role. It's fine. Stop freaking out. Once they start announcing...
Jesse Eisenberg.
Eisenberg?
Eisenberg. That's the one! Jesse Eisenberg. I don't know how I forgot that name. It's my name. Jesse Eisenberg is the guy
Yeah,
we
I've
were
been reading about
referring
it all
to.
morning. You'd think I'd remember. But yeah, so Jesse Eisenberg, who's the actor who's going to be playing him, you would think that people would go, hey, that's the guy who did The Social Network, and connect the dots from there. Actually, what I might do to accompany this podcast is I might try and Photoshop a picture of Jesse Eisenberg into being bald. And see if we can't say, this is what he should look like, what do you think? Because really, those cheekbones and his jaw structure, very, very what I would expect of a Lex Luthor. He looks evil.
Oh, for sure. He's got the evil look down packed. That's no doubt about it. While we're on this topic, I know Mark Strong was in the running for being Lex Luthor. I hear exactly what you're saying. Honestly, I think it's a strange pick, but I wouldn't criticize him for that. I think it's just a very unusual one. And look, it's not the craziest thing that people have done before. So, I would have really liked to have seen Mark Strong, though, as a Lex Luthor. I think he could have portrayed him maybe a little bit better. But at the same time, let's see what Jesse can bring to the table. I'm willing to give him a chance.
It's not just that. Speaking of these kind of knee-jerk reactions that the internet seems to love to have, like they did last night on Twitter while I was asleep and I woke up to all this, let's have a look back at a few movies, right? So you've got Heath Ledger's Joker.
Yep.
Right?
Brilliant.
It's now been penned as the most brilliant Joker we've ever seen. Chaotic. Insane. Mad as the Mad Hatter. Just absolutely no rhyme or reason. He just wants to, basically kill Batman. That's pretty much what it's all about. He just wants to create chaos in the universe. He just wants to watch everything burn. Originally, people didn't want him as the Joker. People thought he couldn't play it, that he couldn't do it. He proved them wrong. Now, I'm not a big fan of Heath Ledger's as the Joker, but he did do exactly what he needed to do. He did the role really, really fucking well.
He did.
Speaking of that, and tying into the next part of this actual topic, originally the actor who plays Captain America, everyone remembers him as Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four, and no one wanted him to play Captain America at all. And to be honest, the first Avenger movie was actually pretty good.
When you say first Avenger movie, are you referring to the actual Avengers, or are you referring to the first Captain America?
The first Captain America.
Okay.
It was called Captain America: The First Avenger, I'm
Yep,
pretty sure.
that's correct.
Yep.
My only criticism for that was it started off quite strong. It started to go a bit weird towards the end, but that was my only criticism. I really actually liked the first half of it. I thought it was really well done.
I've never really liked Captain America in the comic books, except for Ed Brubaker's Captain America, the Civil War stuff and all that, because it really shone through that it wasn't just war propaganda, which is what he was originally intended to be back in, I think, the 40s. Originally he was Captain America.
Yeah.
He was Marvel's answer to not only the war, but also to the Superman character. It was their balance.
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus America!
America! Yeah! So that's one of the things. I mean, really, when Chris Evans came on board for the original Captain America, people were pissed.
Yeah.
Quite frankly. And we've seen it time again in movies, especially comic book movies. People are so passionate about it, but unless they get their particular choice, what they want to have happen, it's such a calamity. Do you know what? The funniest part here is the fact that when Affleck first was announced for Daredevil, no one had an issue. Now, Daredevil wasn't bad because of Affleck. Daredevil was bad because of the script. The script was horrible.
Yeah.
The scene setups were horrible. Elektra was horrible.
Yeah.
And going back to that, that's where everyone first came to with the whole Batman vs Superman. Oh, Affleck's going to be shit as Batman. Rah, rah, rah. Look at how he fucked up Daredevil. Yeah, not exactly true, guys. So that's my rant over. I just think that we all need to take a back seat and just wait for the movie. Yeah, hey, it might be crap, especially considering that all of these Justice League characters are going into it. Obscure ones, I'm going to say, like Aquaman, because he talks to the fishes. And funny story about that, there has been some leaks online that we don't know if it's true or not, and I don't usually post anything of a rumor nature on the website because it's rumor and I can never back it up with actual sources from actual companies. It's usually like Joe Blog said this, he heard this, he read this, he has a script for this. But apparently Aquaman's going to be in it because the destruction to the Daily Planet and the actual city surrounding it has caused some sort of issue with the water because of the big draw machine. The terraforming machine apparently had some sort of effect on the water and killed a bunch of fish. Aquaman comes up to say, "Hey guys, what's going on? You try to fuck up my sea for no apparent reason. Who can I fuck up for this?"
Yeah.
So that's a bit odd in itself to think that he's going to be in it. Wonder Woman's going to be in it. The Flash is apparently going to be in it. They're in talks to get the Green Lantern into it. They're in talks to get the Green Arrow into it. Does anyone else here think that we might just see an Avengers movie, especially considering it's been pushed back to 2015, I think, in May?
I sort of think that that's what they are trying to do, and the reason why I say that is, like, they feel like they need to compete. Like, the Avengers movie was a massive success. Like, and to be quite honest, I felt like it met the hype. It was a brilliant movie.
I think it set the bar.
Oh,
I don't think
definitely.
that anyone will be able to go over that bar. I will be surprised if the Avengers 2 doesn't top it, actually, because of Ultron. And for those who don't know, look up Age of Ultron, look up the character Ultron. Wiki it, do whatever you need to do, preferably not Wiki. Go out and buy the comics, is the thing I want you to do. Go out and buy the animated series that have Ultron in them. Go out and buy the animated Marvel movies, just simply because you'll get a taste of what this guy is, which is indestructible. He is basically a robot assistant that was created by Hank Pym, also known as Ant-Man, to help around the lab and stuff like that. Now, it depends on which version you want to go with. One of the Hank Pyms does it a little bit differently. He creates it to kill the Avengers because Pym particles get into his brain, and Pym particles is just a stupid thing. But when it comes to something like that, an indestructible Megaforce, bring in the Avengers for that. Bring in possibly a couple of other Avengers, especially going back to the Captain America thing where The Winter Soldier looks amazing. From what we've seen so far, we don't know a lot about it.
Yeah.
But we do know enough to go, hey, it looks cool. It certainly looks cooler than any of the DC stuff that's out there.
Yeah.
And I think that it's probably going to make bank. It looks that well done.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Especially with Falcon, and everyone wants to see Falcon. And bringing Falcon in as a black dude like he should be is fucking great.
Well, you could probably talk about movies through hours and hours, but I think it's time we move on to the next topic, which is anime.
Woo, anime!
Flawless victory. Excellent.
Okay, so next topic, anime!
Anime, yeah. I would like to kick this ball off. Dragon Ball Z.
Absolutely, Dragon Ball Z. And let's face it, like, alright, so we've talked a bit about this on the first recording that we did before it died.
Yeah, we should also mention we did a recording, but and
almost
it was
2 hours.
It went for 2 hours, and we were going to cut some bits. We didn't even get to that far. It just decided to die on us, and we were like,
bum bum. So anyway, Dragon Ball Z. So Dragon Ball Z, at the time that it had what I like to call the Dragon Ball Z boom.
oh yeah,
Back when it was on Cheese TV.
oh yes, GCV.
Was large. It was very large. In fact, a lot of people absolutely loved it, followed it. I think it was Doritos that did the Tarzos in the chips, and you had the anime figures, the toys that came out with promotional trading card game cards. People like me were flying all over the country, playing in massive tournaments, high-profile tournaments for Dragon Ball Z, with great prizes on the line.
It's been one of those anime series that has been so successful, and not just for its time, but even like however many years it's been. Like we recently had a movie that came out, Battle of the Gods, and the hype for that was incredible. And not just that, it was a brilliant movie. Like I thought it was done fantastically.
Absolutely, in the same. And there is some parts of it that just left me a bit high and dry.
Of course.
But when it came down to it being a Dragon Ball Z movie, and when you look at the other movies, this one was, I'm going to go out there and say, the best Dragon Ball Z movie we have ever seen.
Better than Broly.
Yeah?
Yeah? Is that a confident... yeah, okay.
I would say, yeah, better than Broly.
Better than Broly?
Broly's probably my third favourite. I think Bardock
oh, yeah, the Bardock one. Yep.
is definitely my second favourite. Seeing Goku's dad for the first time made me teary, actually.
Oh, yeah.
I felt very emotional with that, and I was watching that on VHS.
Did you ever see the special episode where you actually got to see Bardock like after like the big boom basically that Frieza did? So he survived that, and he actually goes into his story. He managed to actually go back in time.
I did actually. Funnily enough, I ran across this on YouTube of all places because I didn't know it existed. Now I'm a huge Dragon Ball Z fan.
Yeah,
and I mean massive. We're talking. I used to have the 6-foot high Goku cutout stand up from Doritos that came out.
That's.
I had every single VHS. Now we're talking with these videotapes that you kids probably don't know what they are. They were like big tapes that you used to put into something that looks like an Xbox One, basically a big chunky thing that you would play a movie through. Now, with these, every single one of these movies, and I'm pretty sure with the series as well, they had this fantastic plastic. Now, this plastic was vibrant, like we're talking neon green, fantastic type plastic.
Yeah.
And I had every single one of them. I actually purchased every single season. Every movie, obviously bar this one, but every movie that was out at the time, at a Woolworths, of all places. That's how popular Dragon Ball Z was. It wasn't just, here's an anime series and kids like it. Here's a massive franchise that everyone was getting into. And to see an anime like that being displayed in a Woolworths, of all places...
Yeah.
was pretty big.
It just screams 90s. That's what it screams. Like, just that classic 90s anime. And not just that, just the way it was, animated. Like, all those stuff, all that animation, it was all sketch-based.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it was
none of that digital crap. No,
it was
none
just...
of it was replaced. It was all cell by cell.
Exactly. What I actually also really love about the Dragon Ball Z, not even just Dragon Ball Z, but even Dragon Ball as well, like, the voice actors. I've got to give my props out to the voice actors. Like Chris Sabat, absolute brilliant man. He does, I think, 6 voices or so.
I actually got to hang out with them and have dinner with them.
Yeah.
After a Supernova, after one of the big tournaments, because they were there doing Kamehameha contests and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. And that was amazing to hang out with those guys. It really was, just to hear them do those voices and stuff. And just the pleasure of meeting them. Both really nice guys. Chris Sabat and the guy who voiced Goku, who I should remember.
Sean Schumacher. Yeah, Sean Schumacher.
I can never do his surname.
But yeah, I know. I always forget the surname. But it's funny. Yeah, I actually got to hang out with Chris as well. And he's just such a down-to-earth guy. Like, and I love it because he's actually the voice director for a lot of the games that come out now. And it's cool. Like, I was actually at a stand where Eric Vale, who does Future Trunks, and Chris Sabat was there as well. And on top of which, it was Android 19. You know, that little fat, chubby sort of android, pale dude.
Reminds me of me, only shorter.
Yeah.
Okay, so for those that don't know, myself, I am 6'2" and I weigh about 120 kilos. So
He's
I'm a
big
mix
boned.
of Android 16 and Android 19.
He's big boned. Big boned. God damn it, Kitty. But yeah, like Chris Sabat, Eric Vale at the same booth, and also the guy who played Android 19. And it was just so funny because Chris Sabat was kind of being in that voice director kind of role. He was kind of saying, yeah, you know, you do a good Trunks, but I'll just kind of do it like this. And he was kind of like basically starting them up. And they were just like having a fight with their characters. And I'm just sitting there going, oh, this is my childhood. I love this.
Well, and that's it. Like, when we went out to dinner with them, hearing both Sean and Chris talking in both Vegeta and Goku voices at this table, at this restaurant, was fucking amazing. Hearing them just go backwards and forwards, and I was like, I am living out an episode of Dragon Ball Z right here, right now. And I can tell you, like, I've been around some famous musicians and stuff because I used to do radio for 4ZZZ up in Brisbane, which is a community radio station. I think they still go by 102.5 FM in Brisbane.
Yeah.
They have a really good gaming show you guys should check out called Z Games as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I've hung out with the likes of the Whitlams and Susie Q and stuff like that. Never before have I felt so starstruck, like I didn't know what to say, except for this particular time, which for me is pretty big, you know. Like, you would think that meeting some of your musical idols would humble you and make you go, there, but instead, these anime guys just sitting there, I just didn't want to speak, I was just watching them. And they actually wanted me to join in, so I started joining with the Vegeta voice, and then, you know, they were just going back and forth with me as well, and it was like, holy crap.
Yeah, I quite actually like what the Team 4-Star boys do as well. Like how they basically have taken Dragon Ball Z. For some people, they say it's kind of wrecked it, and it was so funny because I actually saw Taka. He actually attended an event where Chris Sabat was actually doing what was he doing? He was basically
people saying that they've wrecked it. You can't wreck it by making it better.
Oh no, it was brilliant.
Their parodies are fantastic.
He was basically doing a Q&A, and Taka actually stood up, and he did, because Taka does Nappa, which is, if you've seen Team 4-Star, they basically just redubbed the series on how they think it should have gone, and it's actually quite hilarious. Like I get just laughing about it, but basically, what he's done is he's gone over to Chris Sabat. He's just gone in his Nappa voice, and they've started to throw back through together. Pardon me. And what was brilliant about it is Chris Sabat went over to him. He's gone, "You guys are exactly what we wanted to do with Dragon Ball Z, but we couldn't because we're under contract. I love you guys." And I was just like, that's just brilliant. I love that.
Exactly. It made it so much better. So we are running out of time. I think that we should go to our Q&A section.
Yeah, we got a few hits on Facebook, Twitter, and through our email. It was a bit quiet, but, it's first podcast, so basically, if you do have any, subjects that you do want to ask us about, it could be game-related, it could be what we do here at the Geek Next Door, please feel free to, contact us via Facebook, Twitter, or at the email address, which is
admin@tgeeknd.com. That's TGEEKND.com. Alright, so, starting off with emails from our Q&A. So we received an email from Paul Houlihan. Now, if you haven't heard of Hoops before, Hoops is actually the co-host of the Fourth Player podcast. That's Player Fourth on Twitter. He actually does some writing and stuff for us as well. So he writes in, Dear the Geek Next Door, I hear you like video games, I do too. As relatively grown men, what present-day game would you choose to show an 8-year-old version of yourself to prove video games are awesome and why? Conversely, what video game released in the last few decades would you use to warn your past selves against future bad purchasing decisions? Keep up the future good work. Love from Hoops, co-host of the Fourth Player podcast. What do you think, Jesse?
So, I would actually probably say Pokemon X and Y be a good one to start with. I've always been a Pokemon fan ever since I was a kid, and I think it would be really good. It's a little bit hard to say because you get a Pokemon game that's on a Game Boy, and then suddenly your future self appears and goes, "Wait, I've got this one though," and you're like, "Whoa, that's so much better."
Exactly, it'd be mind-blowing. You know what? I'm going to have to agree with you there as well. If I took Pokemon X to the 8-year-old me, and now just bear in mind that the 8-year-old me came from a world of the C64, Commodore 64 128 system, which is like an earlier version of a PC basically, and the Atari 2600, which was obviously one of the first consoles, one of the first, not the first, because some people seem to think it's the first, and it's not.
Magnavox Odyssey.
Exactly, Magnavox Odyssey. Some people think it's the first console that came out. It wasn't. It was just the first, I guess, best console that came out, really. But if I took Pokemon X back to the 8-year-old self, and you saw the dual screens, the colour, hey, look, there's little monsters. You mean I get to befriend these monsters and then run around and attack other monsters and catch them? I'd have a field day. Especially coming from my days. This was before Nintendo, really hit it big with Game Boys and stuff as well. So it was back in that era where we were still looking into, people had Sega Master Systems and stuff like that coming out a couple of years later. So it was a pretty big time back then. It was mainly based around BBS boards and whatever else a little bit later as well. But when it comes to things like that, I definitely think that something like that being brought back into that time. I mean, you could technically say anything from this age, but when you're looking at an 8-year-old self and what 8-year-old me wanted to play, it was definitely be something like Pokemon.
Yeah.
Cutesy and friendly and cuddly and cutesy.
Yeah, that's true.
What about warning yourself on a previous game?
I thought about this, and there are a few games. I think the one that stands out the most, I was going to say a Final Fantasy game, but I do remember playing one particular game and going, oh my god. And all it needs to be said is this. Jackass, the video game.
Really?
On the DS.
I thought about this. Now, we're talking about from the last few decades.
Yeah.
And I want to give that a shitty award to Aliens Colonial Marines. I would love to warn myself to...
You're really hating on this game.
I hate this game so much. Mainly, and don't get me wrong, about my thoughts on this game. There's two things. The first one is, it wasn't what was shown to us. When we got the game, it wasn't what was released to both press and consumer alike. Now, I'm a consumer. I went out and bought this game.
Yeah.
We don't get everything that we review for free. A lot of the time, we have to go out and pay for our own games.
Hopefully that can change in the near future. Hey,
yeah, exactly.
Hey.
And that's the thing, we will always give an honest opinion no matter what we receive. There are things that we have received copies of, such as, Ghost for Xbox One and 360.
Yeah.
I didn't give it a glowing review because it didn't deserve it. It
No,
certainly
and that's
wasn't
fair
as
enough.
good as the previous Black Ops game, which, in my honest opinion, multiplayer-wise, was stunning and fantastic. I think that with Colonial Marines, the writing was off. I certainly didn't feel like I was playing the character that was part of that whole franchise. Basically, it didn't feel like a franchise game at all. well, it didn't feel like a part of the franchise. It certainly felt like a franchise game because most of the Aliens games have been terrible. And we're always waiting for them to be good, and they never are.
I feel obliged to say something about Jackass, the video game, but really, I can't really say much.
I've got something on my mind in regards to that. The second choice for me would be the previous South Park game.
No, I'll go with you on that one. That was a big disappointment.
That was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Stick of Truth. Hopefully, it's going to be better. In saying that, watching it cross from THQ, from the unfortunate closure of THQ, into I think Ubisoft maybe producing it at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm keen to see it. With the way the games are today, I feel that even with the THQ issue, the THQ closure, and the game changing development, basically, I have a feeling that the game could still be really good. I'm not going to hold my breath because things in the past have shown me how games tying into TV shows generally aren't as good as we want them to be.
Yeah.
But this game seems impressive in the way that it's been done.
Yeah.
And certainly the creators of South Park, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, have certainly come out and been hands-on with it a lot. A lot. I mean, especially when they were trying to fight it going from THQ to anyone else and going, no, this is ours, you can't do it.
Yeah.
And then having to
they've
go,
got every
you
right
can
to do that as well.
They do, yeah. It's their intellectual property. It's just more about the contracts. But, going back on topic, I will be interested to see how that turns out. Now, do you have any other tweets or emails or Facebookians?
Yeah, I put the shout out on my personal Facebook, and I actually got two from some good friends of mine. First one being Benji, and he wants to raise some hype about The Last Guardian. Now, I was quite unfamiliar with this game, so I did a bit of research into it. Pardon me. And basically, from what I understand, it's a game that was supposed to be released on several occasions, but never really got released when it was supposed to. And it's a shame. I did a bit of research into the game. It seems interesting. Like, it's from my understanding, it's from the same producers of Shadow of Colossus, the one where you go around slaying massive giants. Which I really liked that game. I thought it was good. A bit repetitive. Same, kind of, not same giants, but it's basically the same kind of thing. You have to climb these giants and hit their weak spots for you to eventually take down said giant. Like, it was a great game, in terms of, like, gameplay, a bit repetitive. But The Last Guardian, from same producers, and, I find it's a bit of a shame that it's, they just keep, saying, oh, it's coming. Oh, no, it's not.
And that's the thing for me. The only comment I have on this is I'm not holding my breath. I mean, it's been delayed so many times already. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it looks really amazing. We haven't really seen much from it, though.
Yeah.
And the fact that it keeps getting delayed, I'll be surprised if it ever actually gets a release.
Yeah. I am curious to know, and I'm going to put the shout out here, if there are any people other than, including Benji, of course, that are fans or that do want to see more out of The Last Guardian, like, offer your 2 cents on our Facebook page or our Twitter, or send us an email, because it's something that I would actually like to, because I don't know a hell of a lot about the game itself. I've only just, as I said, just briefly read up on it. I would be interested to see how much of a fan base it does actually have. So, yeah, feel free to, hit us up on the email or any social network that we're on.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
And you'll see links, basically, with this podcast to our Twitter, our Facebook, and it will probably be directly on our site. So that would be tgeeknd.com or at tgeek on the Twitters.
Yeah, sure. I think you had a Twitter shout-out, though, and asking on a question.
We do. This one is from Kel, who used to write for us back in the day. She was our news editor, then she had a lovely little baby, and didn't have time on, obviously, because babies are quite intensive.
Yeah.
Children take up so much time. So she writes in and she says, what do you think about the non-customizable Steam engines? Well, this is a bit of a fun thing, isn't it? I mean, on one hand, Steam engine looks really great. On the other hand, why would I go out and buy a Steam engine when it's just like a PC if I except non-upgradable. What do you think?
Look, we had this discussion before, and I on our previous podcast that mysteriously disappeared. But this is my whole 2 cents on it. People like that flexibility, and I don't think that this offers it. Like, I feel like it's always going to be on that baseline, and then it will slowly decline, and they'll bring something out that'll bring it to that baseline again, and then that will continue going down. Unless they can make it a bit more flexible, I don't foresee it being something that I would be interested in buying.
And the other thing to consider as well is that some games come out, even on Steam, that are the level of Crysis when it came out. Now, Crysis was a game that was released. It was extremely hard on the hardware itself. Like, the people were finding they were having to go out and upgrade their computers and stuff because they certainly couldn't run it.
Yeah.
Not even on everything turned down. They still couldn't run the game. It basically broke computers.
Yeah.
And they knew this at the time that it was released as well. People had to go out and upgrade their systems to play this game.
Yeah.
And it was a fairly decent game from what I'm aware. I didn't really play much of the first one. I certainly played the second one, which came out last year, I would like to think. And it was great. It was a really good game. But, again, the textures and stuff just really put a huge tax on people's systems to the point where they had to upgrade their PCs. Now, with a Steam box, the platform itself, the thought around the platform is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Steam at the moment. I know that my partner and a bunch of other people, buy stuff in the Steam sales and things like that.
Yeah.
They're always buying games online, digitally available at your fingertips, download it and play it. But they can upgrade their PCs and stuff.
Exactly.
You can't upgrade the system, so how long until the system becomes obsolete? Is it going to be, 2 months, 6 months, a year? How long is the system going to last for?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And that's what it is. That's why I'm like, I see what you're trying to do, but am I a fan of it? Can't honestly say that I am.
Originally I was pretty excited, but then hearing that they're non-customizable, you can't upgrade them. Well,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, like, I could just get a computer and patch it directly through my TV anyway.
Exactly.
So where's the difference in me going out and buying a $2,000 PC that I won't need to update for X amount of time, or go out and buy one of their Steam boxes, which I think the cheapest one I saw was about $1,500 or $1,000 or something.
I'm sure that they'll have an audience for it. But yeah, as for me, I don't foresee where I would be, basically of need of it.
The other point, because Dana's actually here in the room as well, she's just made the point that one of the makers of computers, which we all know as Dell, who took over Alienware is going to be making a Steam box. Now, we all know that Alienware used to be really, really high quality. Their stuff was great. There's been a lot of complaints lately in regards to their kind of products that they've been bringing out. The biggest complaint that we're going to see, is how much of these Steam boxes is going to be through Alienware. I mean, Alienware, and let's put it into perspective, this particular subsidiary of Dell create gaming laptops. They were once regarded as the best quality, the highest quality gaming laptop that you could get out of anyone. Now, they're not as well recognized as they were in that regard. But the problem is we're thinking how much is the price going to be on a Steam box through them.
Yeah, I would completely agree. Well, I guess it's time for our last question, and I think it's a really good last one to finish off the podcast. Rachel, another good friend of mine, put the shout-out onto my Facebook. Game of the year for 2013, and why?
You throwing it over to me first?
Oh, yeah, definitely throwing it over to you
I'm
first.
going to call it as BioShock Infinite. Quite simply, and this wasn't on a lot of people's list, it was on some people's lists. It was bumped off by a game that I'm sure you're about to talk about. But to me, I really liked the game. The combat, a lot of people were saying was too simple, rah rah rah. Well, you know what? I kind of agree with you on that vein, but I really liked the story. The story pulled me in,
Yeah.
The story made me want to actually play the game from beginning to end. Now, I didn't actually buy this game. We didn't get it for free. It turned out that Dana decided that she wanted it for the collector's edition. I'm not sure if she even finished the game, did you? No, she didn't finish the game. I finished the game. Because we wanted a review up and out there knowing, it was a BioShock game, and we knew that it would create a large amount of traffic, and I really wanted to see what it was like because of the stuff that we'd seen.
Yeah.
and it turns out it was a really, really good choice to play.
Yeah. For me, and I know Al's going to have a problem with this immediately as soon as I mention it, it was Last of Us. And the reason why I say Last of Us...
Zombies again.
Taken aside, there was a lot of zombie games around at that time. This zombie game took on a different direction, both in terms of how the zombies were infected and also, in general, the storyline. Now, in pretty much every single zombie game that I've played, it's literally been massive hordes of zombies that come at you, and you could basically just get a machine gun and just plow through them pretty much. In this one, it's a little bit more tactical, and that's what I quite liked about it. Not just that, the storyline, it was a bit of a tearjerker as well. Like, I've just lost my train of thought again. Damn you, cat.
Tearjerker.
It was a tearjerker, and that's what kind of made me interested in it. I feel like, especially when I play a game like Pokemon, like Pokemon, Zelda, any of those games, like I feel like it does need that sort of connection, and I felt that connection especially with The Last of Us. It was a game where you actually had to think, and you're not just versing zombies, which is what was really good too. You're versing these hostile people as well, who are basically, fighting for the good cause, which everyone has a different version of the good cause.
And that's fine as well. Look, obviously that's why our website's there, because everyone has a different opinion. Everyone can post up whatever they want. Basically what you're looking for in a game is you want something that brings you into it, makes you want to play it. No matter what you want to single out in it, does it have shit graphics, does it have shit writing? If you've got a game that excels in gameplay, you're going to want to continue playing that game because it's fun.
Yeah.
If you've got a great story and shit gameplay, well, that's fine, because you want to play it for, that particular story. You want to find out what happens. If it's got great graphics and you just want something pretty, well, guess what? You're going to keep playing it because it's pretty.
Final Fantasy. Sorry, it had to be done. It had to be done. We're not going to touch on that this one. We'll save that for next one.
But basically, and this was the thing that I was saying to somebody the other day, like, as much as I am sick of zombie stuff everywhere, like, if it's not going to be zombies, what else is it going to be, right? It'll be freaking Frankenstein, or it's going to be fucking...
Vampires,
Christ. Sparkly vampires at that.
I'm happy shooting them.
Yeah, exactly. The Last of Us, still a better love story than Twilight. And on that note, I think that we should probably end.
Most definitely. Like, it's been an absolute pleasure. This is our first podcast. I'm slowly dying from Al's cats being allergic to them, so I do apologise for that. But yeah, look, if you've got any suggestions or if you've got any Q&A for our next podcast, we're going to try and pump these out once every 2 weeks. Send us a line, drop us a line. Drop us a line on our social networks.
In the internet ocean.
In the internet ocean, social networks. We're there, the Geek Next Door. We've got an email address, which is
admin@tgeeknd.com.
Yep, brilliant. So if you contact us through one of those, we will be sure to try and, get that in the Q&A. Obviously, depending on how many people we do get for that may,
Absolutely. And look, we are going to be having some special guests on over the next couple of podcasts.
Yeah, which would be really cool.
We have been in contact with some people within the games industry. So hopefully we can have those cleared successfully.
Yeah. So once we get confirmation of that as well, like, just keep an eye out on, Twitter, Facebook. We'll be announcing all the information on that.
At least a week before we podcast.
Yeah, most definitely.
And so if you're out there and you are from one of the companies, indie or not, and you want to talk to us, absolutely run it by us. Send us an email. That's how we do this.
We want to hear from you guys, essentially.
Yeah, we've got some potential community managers coming on. Some guys who run events, things like that. We'd love to hear from you, especially if you're an indie developer. We really want to give you guys, the focus you deserve, because some of the indie stuff that we've seen recently, especially when I attended Global Game Jam on the weekend, was fantastic. Giselle, who ran it, was very gracious to have us there and going through some stuff and letting us take photos and talking with the guys and playing their games. We've got some stuff that's coming up on the website about that. We have some audio clips that are going up with that article as well. And hopefully by the next podcast we'll have Dragonball Z, Battle of Z review up on the website as well.
Oh, that'll be good
because
fun.
We're just waiting for that game to come through, and you can bet that I'm going to be playing it and we'll be streaming
Hopefully I'll get on
Absolutely.
that too.
Yep.
DBC for the win.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Have fun, and talk to you next time.
Bye.
Flawless victory. Excellent.
Hello? Where are you? I know you're there. I can feel you here.
Excellent.